Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special edition of Learning Live. It is a double feature because that means you've got me and you've got Darlene. And we've got some pretty cool stuff cooked up for you tonight. Say hello, Darlene.
Hi.
There you go. We've got people tuning in and saying hello. Uh, so here's what the plan is for tonight. We are both creating with this very sweet, adorable stamp set called Christmas Robins. Now, I did a little bit of research and now I'm not going to remember what it was, but robins are a symbol of hope, a symbol of strength. And so that makes this absolutely perfect as we are celebrating things pink and raising awareness for breast cancer. So Darlene and I are both going to be creating with this stamp set. We are going to be using things that are pink and maybe a few other colors. Now, if Matt can please pop up the PDF, say hello to Matt. I get everyone in the comments. He is moderating for Darlene and I. Here is just a sneak peek at the stamp set. We're going to tell you a little bit more at the end of this live. How you can get this, what it's going to mean. But if you have been following us on Facebook, you know that we have been asking for your input. And our first question was, do you want us to do a layout or a card? And I will tell you between Instagram and Facebook, the decision was pretty well split. So we're going to answer that split in that Darlene is going to create a card and I am going to create a layout. Our second question was flowers versus stripes. And again, this one was pretty much straight down the middle. So we are actually both creating with stripes. Darlene is going to incorporate some flowers. And just by nature of what was on the opposite side of my striped paper, I'm also going to be incorporating some dots. So there's a bonus little pattern in there. And then our third question was, do you want us to showcase ideas with paste or with ink blending? And this one was a little bit more definitive and many more people came out on the paste side. So we are both creating with paste tonight. And you know what, there's going to be a few other things that we're going to throw in there. But that has been our challenge. And that is why you get two for the price of one tonight with this special Learning Live. Now, before I turn things over to Darlene to kick things off, she's going to be creating a beautiful card. Matt, are there any questions we should be aware of?
No.
No questions. Lots of people just tuning in live, saying hello. So I am now going to get my microphone put on mute. And Darlene, you can take it away with your crafty session for tonight.
Sounds good to me. Hello, everyone. Give you this card that I put together using the stuff that you chose for Sheri and I to use. So there's stripes, flowers, and there's lots of paste. First things first is going through the paste. So one of the things I like to do with paste is using the pearl white. As the name says, it's a pearly white paste, and changing it to the color that works with my palette. It's a stencil butter. They're very pretty, but for this project that I was doing, it didn't have the right pink that I wanted. So I wanted to show you how I created this oval, well, scalloped oval in this background with paste. So let me just move stuff to the side. I do have multiple boards to work on that way because it's paste. It's going to get messy. And I need one more thing, which is this. So one thing, if you have a palette board or something slick, I'm just using one of our labels from our shipping earlier. I am going to get a little dollop of paste and just putting it there. Depending on the size that you're covering will determine, but we can always add more of the white paste when I need it. So there's two ways of doing it. You can cover the whole rectangular piece with paste. But for tonight, I've already die cut my scalloped oval, which I'm using Lawn Fawn's Giant Holiday Messages. I think this was the one that went with their winter sentiments. But I really like this scallop, so I already die cut it, and we're just going to put the paste on top. Just saves us some time, but either way can do. So any re-inker works. The color that I chose for this oval was Concord and 9th Honeysuckle. At the end of my creation, I do have 2 other cards that uses 2 other re-inkers with 2 different shades of pink, which I'll showcase afterwards. So all you need is really 1 tiny drop to start with. So I'm just squeezing 1 little drop. And try it out. Because they are re-inkers, they are really deep in color. So depending on the shade, I'm just using my palette knife. I want to make sure I'm covering all this. So I have a light pink, which is nice color. But see how I changed that pearl white to this pinky color. So I do have different color selections I picked. We're starting with honeysuckle from Concord, and then I can show you some of the other colors that I used. Here is my scalloped oval, and what I'm going to do is just swipe this. So I do have a little scratch paper here, and I'm going to cover the whole entire oval. So this was easier for me to do than a whole rectangular panel, just because then I don't waste a lot of the paste. And as you can see, I'm just putting a thin layer first. And we want to make sure we cover it nicely. I like the shine of the pearl, but you could use the other, I know I brought it. I use the pearl finish, but you can for sure use the light and fluffy. It'll just give you not a pearly look to it, but that works as well. But the nice thing is making your own colors. So here I am just swiping it through a thin layer and then making sure it's even. So I'm just pretend you're icing a cake. So you want to make sure it's even. You got all the panels, and I want it smooth in the middle, although the birdhouse does cover. Okay, like that. And then let's just do the scallops. I find the scallops the trickiest. And then, yeah, I'm really messy here, but I really wanted the edges covered. And let me wipe this off. And we're going to let it dry. So with the magic of, television, I do have one that's already drying and all done. But there it is, this nice pink shade. So depending on how much ink you put down will determine the color. So I'm going to put that aside just because it does take a while to dry, because we did, even though it's a thin layer, it still needs time to dry. I am using Vicky B's foundation paper because it's a nice thick paper, but I also like using Tim Holtz's heavy stock. The thicker the paper, the better, just because it holds that water in it and it doesn't curl. Okay, so I made a mess here. Let me just clean up my fingers, or I'm going to have paste everywhere, but that's okay. And let me move this aside. So as that is drying, I already created a light pink and a dark pink. So the light pink was using Pink Lemonade. And then just to show a little bit of difference, this one here was a deeper honeysuckle. And then, so is there a preference of which color anyone wants me to use tonight? Should we go light? Should we go dark? Matt or Sheri, any choices of color that people want me to use for tonight? They both look really nice and lots of fun. So I see dark, please. Perfect. So I
was just going to say, Darlene, it seems like the consensus is dark.
Okay. My iPad's trying to catch up, but perfect. We will work with dark. So this is already dried. I did leave it overnight, and what I did was this morning I stacked heavy books on it just to flatten it out. This one you can see it's curved, but because we're using it in the background of the card, the glue is going to hold it nicely and flat. So next thing I want is let's cut our paper. I am using Lawn Fawn paper. The ones Sheri and I chose was the Pink Pow, which is this nice diagonal stripes. And the other one here is the Satin Stitch. I'm looking at it upside down, but I'm using this floral. I really like those two together. So this diagonal stripe will cover the full panel, the A2 size. So it's 5.5 by 4 1/4. So that's my bottom layer. The next layer is going to give it a little bit, I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller. So I did 5 1/4, so just a quarter smaller by, oops. I want to make sure I'm doing that right. Yep, that's right. 5 1/4 by 4. So just a quarter smaller than your A2 size card. That gives you 1/8 all the way around. Just like that. Okay, and that's it for my trimmer for now. I need a card base. And let's stick this on. So the nice thing is that even though these are the diagonal is a busy pattern, because I'm just giving a little bit of hint around, it's not overwhelming, but it gives enough that it does make this center, this floral part pop. So here is in the center. The nice thing about this flower, it's non-directional. Flowers are in every little place. Here is the dark one that I am going to use. So I'm just going to stick glue on it. So just putting glue all over. You can use score tape. I prefer glue just for a heavy hold, but tape adhesive, the tape runner will work as well. I'm making sure I'm covering all the scallop parts because I really don't want it to lift too much. So, and I had this right in the middle. Because there is less of, you can tell here, there's a little bit of white showing. I'm going to turn it just downwards a little bit because I could cover that with a bird. And let me just hold it down. So I'm just rubbing it down, but I don't want to leave marks on my paste. So there you go. So with that Hero Arts set, I already pre-colored and, pre-stamped, pre-colored my little houses and my birds. So one thing before I continue on, you'll notice that I left my holly berries empty. I left my the snow. You can change it up so it doesn't have to be snow, but I wanted to do something fun here. So first thing I am going to do is take my light and fluffy, just because it has more of that. Actually, I should do that last because then I won't be able to glue it on. So let's save that last for the snow. Let's do these holly berries. So there's variety that you can use, your red stickles. What I like was that pop of gold. So I'm using the gold jelly roll and I'm going to color the holly berries. I just love that pop of gold on the pink. So here I'm just going to color that in. I'll add the snow after. And with the, you know what? These birds need shine. So I did bring my glitter because I told Sheri we need to glitter it all. I am using my Quickie pen and I'm just going to, oops, my stopper. And I am going to add glue just in between his scarf here. I'm using Elizabeth Craft's Microfine Glitter, and I'm going to glitter this bird up. You would think I would have my tweezers here. Okay, let's pick this up. And sorry, Matt, if your shipping table's all glittery tomorrow. So I'm just glittering up, and you see a little bit of blue right now from the glue, but it is going to dry clear. So let's put that aside for now, because my luck is that I am going to smear it with my hands. So let's add a little bit more on this bird. I did pre-stamp all 3 birds. I may or may not use them all. Let's see. So let's sprinkle more glitter. What I like about this fine glitter is that it's so fine that all you will see later is sparkles. I'm just whacking it, all the leftover. So let's leave that to dry, and this one here. Okay, let's put this aside. And let's check that so I don't get dirty. There, we glittered. And let's put this card together. First things is my house. If I was going to do this again, I would do the snow first, but I'll show you what I did with this. So I'm just putting some foam, and yes, I do use a lot of foam. Where's my strip? I love my foam, and I'll use lots of it. And let me just throw the backings. So I stuck this birdhouse right in the middle because I want it as my focal point. Of course, I'm wonky. I'm not even in the center. Oh well. And then let's stick our birds. It might be still a little bit wet, but that's okay. Going to pop my birdies up. And because I have my birdie on the ledge here, what I did was I put some foam at the top, and I'll use my glue just for the bottom here. Oops, not the tail. Whoops, the feet. Wrong spot, right there. So it could sit right on this edge here. And there. And then I had this one sitting right over here, which I also popped him up. And I did put one near the tail. And we can put this on the ledge here. Just sitting. And where should I put this one? I did. Let's use all 3. This one, I'll put right on top of the oval. So one over there. And stick it right over here. And one thing I have to do is color the little beak. I forgot about the beaks. Beak, beak. There. And then we have these berries. So first thing is I am going to stick them in. So I'm just going to trim a little bit. Don't be afraid to cut things apart. No one's going to know that you didn't use the whole piece. So I'm going to stick that here. And we could stick one more up here. Just going to trim. I had lots of fun playing with this stamp set because there's so much things you can do with it. I do have one more. I don't know if I want to use it. I just don't want it to stick out. Might just leave it for now. That one needs a little bit of glue. Okay, almost done. So next thing I'm going to do is let's add some snow. So you could use fluffy stuff, you could use your paste, you could of course use your glitter. I just did little dollops of snow, and I was okay if the birds got messy because it's snowing. So I had it cover, and I'm just using my palette knife and dabbing it. You can for sure use your pokey tool, but I was okay with the mess because it makes it, gives it that little peak from the snow. And I want lots of snow. And let's say you get it in a place that you don't want, you could always still remove it before it dries. So I'm just putting dollops of snow. I'm going to put some on its legs, on its feet, I mean, to make it look like it's covering the snow. And then don't forget the bottom over here. This one's the tricky one, but so, and then just covering, depending on how much snow you want, but there. Just gonna take my scissors and stick some. Right. It's like marshmallow, this fluff. And let's put some in here. So let me wipe this all off. It's a lot of fun, but you can see the peaks are there, and of course you can add more, but I didn't bring my heat tool, so I'm going to let this dry. So let's add some. Let's finish off with the berry leaves. So here you can see I did gold. Let's make this different and add some stickles here, a pop of red. So I'm just using the red glitter stickles, which is nice because they fill those in nicely. And there is my card. So a little bit different from my sample, but you could tell how that paste background does make a difference. So another example I did with the paste, here was the light version of me using Pink Lemonade from Concord, but I changed the tree a little bit. What I did, sorry, not the tree, the birdhouse, I used the diagonal stripe pattern paper. So you don't always have to color it in. You can use the pattern. And by chance, the diagonal pattern on behind was dotted. And I thought that was cute for the birds. These leaves were also on the dotted pattern paper that I used the light pink, so it looked like that. But I took my Copic and colored on top to bring that in. And here again is the snow. And I reverse it. This time I use a green background just to elevate the middle. And the last card here was using the diagonal, the green oval, but sorry, but I did the paste for the birdhouse. So what I did was I put paste all over the piece of paper, similar to what we did with the scallop, and then I stamped it. The only thing is I couldn't find my StazOn, which is the one that you would use to stamp on top of the paste. I just used a pigment and I let it dry fully, but it was really hard to color on the paste. So what I did was I fuzzy cut all those holly berries and the leaves, and I just glued it on top for dimension. So that is my cards that I am showcasing tonight.
Thank you so much, Darlene. Those are beautiful cards.
Thank
And you are right on time. Your timing is perfect. We did have one question from Margaret.
Okay.
You had mentioned that you did the paste on your Vicky Bouton paper.
Yes.
She's asking if it will work the same if you use Nina or the ECD soft white paper, or
So
if Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so if you're using the soft finish from ECD, it does have the texture on it. Even though it's smooth, you will see a few little bumps on it. It would work. It just, you'll have just a nice textured background. I did use Nina for one of them, and I found that, especially if you're using the 80-pound one, it does warp really quickly because it's not thick enough. But if you're using 110, it should be fine. The thicker the paper, the better, just because the paste is made out of liquid, that it does warp your paper. But I didn't find any peeling or anything like that because you're just putting a thin layer, but it just does a lot of warping.
My thank you, Darlene. I just wasn't sure if Matt had unmuted me or not, but those are fantastic cards, and we will make sure we include those in our special offer that we will talk to all of you about in just a little while. But now it's my turn, and while Darlene has made some beautiful cards, it is my turn to do a layout. Now, a layout, little bit more than a card, especially if I'm going to do a 2-page layout. We just need to get Matt to switch our camera over
I
here.
gotta figure out how to do that. Oh,
Just click on the person.
because if you have
Bear with us, guys.
it's not what you thought because there's two of you.
There we go. So here is my screen, and I am going to be creating also with paste, also with these birdies. And believe it or not, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you 5 different ways to use stencil butter. 5. Actually, maybe even, no, 5 is correct. I thought I had added an extra one, but 5 different ways. Of course, using the Christmas Robin stamp set. I did a little bit of pre-work just because we know our time is tight. So I've got my photo mats here. I've got some alphabet stickers and the colors that I'm using tonight. So for my base page, I'm using this beautiful, beautiful pink heavyweight cardstock from Photoplay. Well, actually from My Colors, which is also Photoplay. This is called Rose Chintz if you are looking to match it up. I am using Simple Stories Color Vibe Pool because I needed a little burst of color on top of our pink. And then like Darlene, I am also using Lawn Fawn paper. We found that they had just some really great basic shapes. And here's my answer to the stripes. But this paper is called All the Dots, and this is Strawberry Fizz. And we just loved that pink color to be used for tonight. I did go ahead and prep some stuff, but I'll come back to that in just a second. All right, so other things I have handy. Let me find space to put these guys. I have a little palette here that I have pulled out my stencil butter just in effort to be ready. The pink color I am using is Watermelon. I think it is my favorite pink in all of the stencil butter colors. It's just so pretty. And complementing it perfectly is the turquoise. I think this is my new favorite color of stencil butter. And then from the new release of colors, I've got Oyster, which is this. It's really pale, not quite the pearl white that Darlene used. It does have a tint of that turquoise color in it as well. But that's what I'm going to be doing. So to start with, I need a piece of Vicky Bouton cardstock. Actually, you need 2 for this layout, 1 for each page. And the first technique I am going to do, and believe it or not, I know Chris and Marcy are watching, and they're going to say, Sheri's getting messy? That is incredible. I have 3 little jars of water, 1 for each color, because I did find that that turquoise really did carry that color and it made my water really dirty and affected my pink. So I've got 3 little jars of water here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to water down each one of these colors of stencil butter and just add lots and lots of water into my palette. You want this fairly loose for the splatter technique so that you get lots of great splatters. And I will warn you, you are going to get splatter everywhere. I've already cleaned up once, but now I probably have to clean up again. So I've got my brush loaded up with this turquoise color, and I'm just gonna tappity tap all over my page. And you're getting that beautiful splatter. Look at that. And yes, it's already on my notes, it's on my desk, but that is the turquoise color. I had paper towel handy, so I'm now gonna just clean off that brush, and I'm using the same brush, just as long as you clean in between here.
You definitely got Chris and Marcy's attention.
I got Chris and Marcy's attention. Now I could change brushes, and you know what? Just for the interest of keeping things clean, I am going to clean here. And now I'm going to go into my watermelon and water that down. You don't want those big clumps. So I'm just really watering down, keeping the extra kind of on the side so that I can add more color, add more paste as I need it.
Why wouldn't you just use your sprayer and spray it in there and then mix it up?
So Matt's asking why I would not put this in my sprayer and mix it up. A, I'm not a mixed media person, so I didn't even really think of that. B, I think the stencil butter, unless you got the consistency really right, you could clog up your sprayer.
No, I meant just spray the water into the...
Oh, spray the water into here, because I would probably make a mess.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, so now I'm going to do my pink. Nice big drops here. And again, Chris and Marcy are probably cringing at my technique, but hey, it just goes to show you that you don't necessarily need a specific technique to be able to play with stencil butter. Now I am going to go into my oyster. This one's not going to show up as much, but it is certainly going to just add some beautiful shine. And I will come back to this because I'm going to be using these palettes. I'm going to be using this in other techniques. Let's just get a little bit more water here. Scoopity scoop. And split, 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 splat, splat, splat. And you know what? The better way, the smarter way to do this would be to have a cardboard box or a splat box of some sort. But just to bring this closer here, you see all of this beautiful splatter. So if I were doing this all the way through, I would do 2 of these and then let it dry. Then what you want to do is cut it down to 11 inches by 10 inches. And now I've lost all my pens. Here we go. So 11 inches by 10 inches is the size of paper that you want. And you want 2 of them because you want 1 for each page. The other thing that I would do, and you know what, I'm just going to show you because I did prep one ahead of time. So I've got my 2 pieces cut down. And then what I did is I took a snowflake stencil and that watermelon stencil butter, and I just ran it through my stencil. Again, in the interest of time, and I think stenciling through a stencil butter through a stencil is probably the most common way to do it. But here's what I did to prep it. So this is another Hero Art stencil. Let me get a piece of green paper here. It was a snowflake stencil, and if I remember correctly, this was the stencil that our breast cancer fundraiser kit included last year. So many of you probably already have this stencil. And what I did is I took my best ever craft tape from Spellbinders, and I just kind of marked off where I no longer wanted the snowflakes to be. I just want it in this corner. And I placed it down. Let me get my real one. So imagine that I've cut this one down to size. I placed it down on my splattered piece in the corner that I wanted it, and I did come in about 1/4 of an inch. And then this is where I'm just going to grab my watermelon stencil, butter, my palette knife, and you would just gently smooth. Now what I would have done if I was really smart was also tape off this side here. But, you know, I didn't. So I'm just going to scrape my stencil butter through the stencil. So this is use number 2 of paste or stencil butter. And it doesn't have to be stencil butter. Maybe you're using sparkle paste from Tim Holtz. Maybe you are using another kind of paste. Maybe you have dyed your own custom color, like Darlene showed in her demo. But I'm just smoothing it out, trying to make sure I'm getting it in all the spots, trying to make sure I don't go over the edge. And again, I'm just going to stop where that yellow tape is because I just want it to be a corner element. And then I'm going to scrape off as much as I can, and in she goes. If I had my second page to do, I would just lift this up, whoop, complete with sound effects. Look how beautiful that is. And I would simply rotate it so that my other corner is going to work out just the same way. And then when I'm done, I've got a little tray of water here. This is just going to go into that tray till I have time to clean it later. And even my palette knife is going to go in there. So you will do that to both of your pieces of splattered cardstock that have been cut down to 10 inches by 11 inches. I'm going to put this in here. All right, before I get on to, actually, no, that's not true. I got one more stencil butter technique, and then we'll do a little bit of assembly, and then there'll be 2 more techniques. So this is just going to sit to finish drying. When I cut off my extra strips, I ended up with a piece like this. So you can see that it's splattered, and you can either use the splattered side, or I'm actually going to flip it over to the plain side. Let's not waste a piece of Vicky Bouton paper.
Wow, Chris would be so proud of you. You're not wasting anything.
I'm not wasting now. The one thing I'm not doing, sorry, Chris, I'm not using paper towel on this project. But you can have all my leftover paper towel if I can keep them safe. All right, so here is technique number 3 to use stencil butter. You are going to need your strip of Vicky Bouton paper. I want to make sure I've used the 12-inch strip because this is going to go all the way across the page. And once again, I'm using my best ever craft tape. And I'm going to mask off about, I don't know if this is 1/8 of an inch. It's not quite 1/4 of an inch, but I'm masking off an area there. I'm going to mask off about the same distance over here. And ultimately, I want to create 2 stripes that are about 1/4 of an inch wide. So I've got this one here. Try to keep it straight. Use your grid paper, which I should have been doing if you need to, and then come over here again, like so. So I've got my best ever craft tape all marked down. This time I'm going to use the turquoise. I'm going to grab, this time I'm going to actually use one of the silicone spatulas from Tonic and Nuvo. This is going to give us some good smooth coverage. And I'm simply going to just take a very little bit and fill in the gap.
Like painting.
I'm just painting, but just with the stencil butter. So Matt's already trying to give away my secrets. There will be some painting later. But I like that this has that flexible tip to it so that I can smooth out and fill in the gaps. And you really don't need a lot. A little will go a long way. And even scoop up your extra to get down the other end before you dip back into your pot. All right. There we go. That's going back in now. And I think I'm done with that. So that's going to go in my water bath. The one thing I will say, try to make sure that your threads stay clean on your jar, because if there's paste in there and it dries, you may not be able to get the lid off. All right. And now simply, actually, let's see if I can do the middle ones first. I know they were the last down. They're going to be the first to come up just because there's a bigger area to hold on to. And I actually put them right into the trash. Peel. Now, because this is a really thin layer of your stencil butter, it's going to dry pretty quickly. But now I'm going to come here. So now I have 2 strips of perfectly matched stencil butter. So there's another way to get stripes on my layout. Just saying. So ideally, let this dry because it is so thin. It's going to dry pretty quickly. But through the magic of TV, I have my strips done. And then I just used my guillotine trimmer to trim them down, leaving that little bit of white border as an extra, just an extra pop of not color, because white is not a color. All right, so now we're going to take a minute and we are going to do some assembly. That means I should probably get rid of this for now. I'll come back to it. And I'm going to start with my snowflake piece. I'm still a teeny bit wet from my prep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tape right on my base page. Doop, 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 doop. Just making sure. Ultimately, I'm going to have a border of about 1 inch around the top side, the right side, and the bottom. And this piece is going to align right to that right-hand edge.
Push it up just a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Matt's telling me I'm off camera. All right, let's see if I can just get that stuck down. Now I'm going to do the same to the opposite side. So this is where you've got your 11 inches by 10 inches. And this is giving you that 1 inch border on 3 of the 4 sides. So, run that tape runner. And this time I'm going to align with the left side. 1 inch on top, 1 inch on bottom. This one doesn't seem to be as wet. That's good. Now, the other things that I prepped ahead of time was my pattern paper. I had 2 strips that were 3.5 inches, 2 strips that were 2.5 inches, and 2 and 2 strips that are 3/4 of an inch. And this is what I ended up with. So on that pool paper from Color Vibe, I simply tore the bottom edge. The pink polka dots, I tore both edges, and this 3/4 of an inch is once again bringing in the stripe pattern paper off the top. And these are going to go, so that straight edge here is going to align with the straight edge at the top.
Jan Lavelle thinks you're really good at eyeballing.
Thank you, Jan Lavelle. Jan is saying I'm very good at eyeballing. 1 inch, because I've got my grids here, it was, not going to lie, it was a little bit easier. It also helps when you just want to make sure that your top and your bottom really are the same. All right, so here I've got that torn piece off the top, and I'm going to use my stencil buttered turquoise stripe right here. Because it's so skinny, I'm pulling out the liquid glue.
Pulling a Darlene.
Pulling a Darlene. My glue is clogged.
He said that glue never logged.
It's what happens when you don't put your lid on. So, luckily, I have lots of bottles. There we go. There. And just because I've got fat fingers, I like to take my tweezers just to lift and turn that over. And I'm going to do this right down the center. Like so. And we'll repeat on the other side. Any questions, Matt? Or do I have everybody mesmerized?
Mesmerized.
mesmerized here with the speed at which this layout is coming together.
I think Marcy and Chris are still in a little bit of shock because you were making a mess.
The mess that's being made here, let me tell you, folks. Let me tell you, I have cloth after cloth here because I'm getting butter everywhere. We're getting buttered tonight. All right. Finish gluing my strip. And that's going to go down the center. So far we have splatter, we have stencil, we have a painted on or spatulaed on strip. That's 3 ways to use stencil butter.
I thought you were supposed to be using the stamp and die.
Matt's saying, I thought you were supposed to be using the stamp and die. Well, let me tell you, that's what's up next. So 2 more techniques for stencil butter. First, let's do the birds. So I have taken my birds here and I have stamped them just on the smooth side of a piece of watercolor paper. Now I did use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne, which is a pigment ink. And I think Chris talked very little bit about this the other night when she did her demo. I guess that was last week. But this one is a waterproof ink. And we are going to be using water and we are going to bring back our stencil butter. 3 what?
Minutes.
3 minutes left?
Yeah, you're running long.
I'm running long. Well, it is a 2-page layout. All right, so here I am. I'm going to do this really quickly because actually, you know what? I've got them already prepped. But I'll just show you a demo. I'm going to paint with the stencil butter, not in the green. Let's start with the pink. And again, you want it nice and watered down. I'm using a really fine little brush. And with it being so watered down, you can paint and still have the stamped image show through. So there we go, and it does come together really easily. You don't need a lot. You can build up intensity of color if you want to add more layers, but my recommendation is paint a little, let it dry, and then add a little bit more. That guy's got a little bit too much there. And then quickly over here. Now I am going to be using 6 birds on here, but for demonstration purposes, we're only going to paint 3. And that's how they look. So not only does it give you that color, it gives you that pearlescent shine. And let's do, get a little bit of water. Let's do his scarf in the turquoise. And what I did do on my final ones, I'll show you in a second, is I did use the oyster on his tummy and face. Now I didn't bring out a yellow or anything like that, so I just used Copics to color in his feet. But there you go. You can really easily paint with the stencil butter. That's also what I did on my alphabet. This is, I believe, a Vicky Bouton alphabet. I don't have the packaging anymore, but I also just painted in the letters to get the colors that are all matchy-matchy. And then go ahead and make sure, and then die cut them out. So I've got my 6 little birds all painted. Dry it first, obviously, before you die cut them. Let them sit, go have a cup of tea, then come back. The last and 5th stencil butter technique I'm going to share with you is on the birdhouse. And this one, I have a bit of an oops. He kind of came apart because I was cutting in different areas, but that's okay because I'm only going to use the top, the snow areas. So this is the Tim Holtz gray 2-tone wood grain paper that I just cut these out. And you know what? It looks fabulous if you just use them with this wood grain. But the other thing you can do, let's use the tools at the end of your arm. I'm going to go in with the pink. Yes, guys, I am getting stuff on my fingers. I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to pick 2 and do them in pink. And I'm literally just rubbing. You need a very little bit because you still want that wood grain. And I should have my mat down. Oh, wow. Too late now. So you really want that wood grain to still be showing through. Let's come over here. And it's okay that I missed some parts because I'm going to have that second area and just rub, rub, rub. And again, look at how that wood grain really comes through with the stencil butter.
The ladies know you. They're like, oh my goodness, it's on our fingers.
It's on my fingers, and I'm not having a meltdown. It's all good. It's all good, but I do need to wipe so that I'm going to do these pieces here in the oyster, and I really am just aiming for, maybe I'll use a different finger, aiming for the top and the bottom. And again, very thin coat, so they're going to dry quickly. All right. Here we go.
So not you.
I am so out of my comfort zone. And folks, if I can get out of my comfort zone, then so can you. So then I would simply grab my scissors and I'm going to, there is a embossed line from the die that you can follow. And that piece will go on there. And do the same up here. So there's 5 techniques for stencil butter. I've got all my pieces prepped, but Matt keeps tapping his watch. So let's switch over because, you know, through the magic of television. Oh, that's still a little bit wet. Da-da-da-da. Here is my finished layout. So before I show you, just to go over the photo mats, again, 2 of each. So I've got 2, this is hunter green from my colors. I did 2 mats that were 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 to fit a 4x4 photo. I did 2 photo mats that were 4 1/4 square. Let's do that so you can see them for a 4x4 photo, and 2 photo mats that are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 for a 3x4 photo. And presto changeo, through the magic of TV, let's move the water because it will get spilled. Already spilled it once today, but luckily before I had any paint in it, here is my layout. Let me look away if you get vertigo easily. Let me go. And there we go. Got lots of room. So here I've got my stencil butter strip. I've got my splattered background, my stenciled snowflakes, my finger painted wood grain, my watercolor painted birds. The only thing I have left to put on here is my title. So my title is going to be L O V, only 4 letters, so not a wordle word. E, love, and over here we're gonna do hope. H O P E. And there you have it. 5 techniques, 2 bottles of glue, lots of pink, lots of teal, and hopefully lots of inspiration. So, speaking of inspiration, now that my session is done, Darlene's session is done, let me show you what the team has been up to. So, like I said, this is the Christmas Robins set from Hero Arts. And actually, before I move on, Matt, do we have any questions that I need to answer before I bring out the magic box?
No.
No questions?
You want
awesome.
Mic on now?
Darlene's mic can be on, that's fine, or
there we go.
There we go. So, hello, Darlene.
Hello,
Hopefully you were
awesome.
also as impressed with my mess as everybody else.
Oh, absolutely.
sorry, 1 second.
I think we need to get a lottery
Tonight
ticket.
we I do need a little bit of water and not my paint water. So as you know, we've been working with the Christmas Robin set from Hero Arts. And if you haven't guessed already, this is our breast cancer fundraiser for 2024. Hero Arts is a tremendous partner, and they have generously donated the stamp and die set for us to offer to you guys. And as an added bonus, we are also going to email you an inspiration sheet. Each one of my amazing team got a set of these as well, and they have created some beautiful cards that we're going to create this inspiration sheet for. And it's going to give you tons of ideas. So not just the ideas we shared with you tonight, but lots and lots of other ideas. So the first two cards are from Chris, and she has done her, sorry, pardon me, I'm sorry about that, folks. She has done some beautiful mixed media goodies, distress goodies in the background. She has colored her birds, and she has done the little happy holidays. So this sentiment set this set comes with 3 sentiments: Merry Christmas, Good Tidings for You, and Happy Holidays. So this is a beautiful standalone card using this particular stamp set, but then she took it a step further. So this one is more of a gatefold card, very similar in look, but the way it works is she's got this little mechanism, and I'm not going to be able to see if I can get this off easily. There we go. So this little birdhouse slides right off, reveals another little birdie, and then opens up. Missing someone is your heart telling you that you love them. So a beautiful way to just bring this whole meaningful message together and use those on some beautiful pink cards. And I think that if we have shown you nothing, is that Christmas can still be pink. And this set has so many options and so much versatility. It's lots of fun to create with. So thank you, Chris, for these beautiful cards. Next up are cards from Tanya. And she did it 2 ways. So she did one card really focusing on the pink. She's got an embossing pine bough here in the background, which she has inked with pink. A pretty little pink sentiment that says Merry Christmas, and her little birds. But if you want something a little bit more traditional, here she's done it the same way with green. Now, the green obviously being a more natural color, but also PCW color, so why not? So these beautiful cards were done by Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Let me just grab a sip of water. Next up are some cards from Marcy. So Marcy also did more of an interactive card. There's this one here. She's done her signature is using sentiment stamps on ink blended backgrounds. And then this little card just pops down. So it actually can stand. If I can get it right, it should be able to stand on its own. So it's a cute little box card. Again, using some pine in the background and some beautiful pattern paper. There's some more ink blending on this card. Her saltwater taffy, I think, is one of Marcy's favorite oxide colors, and she's done a beautiful gradient here. And everybody has played with the snow in different ways, so it's lots and lots of fun to be able to do. I like how she did a landscape card here as well. And last but not least, using the pinstripe die from Concord and Night, some beautiful pink pearls, taking that foliage piece and treating it like a wreath and just doing some really pretty colors. So thank you, Marcy. Those are beautiful. The nice rose gold paper in the background and great, almost nice vintage feel to some of those cards. Next up, we have some cards from Carol. Thank you, Carol, for these great cards. Here, what a clever thing to do is use your paste with a brick stencil. Gives that really fun little background, and it makes it look like that birdhouse is just sitting out in front of your house with all those pretty robins. And Carol's added the little bell. I don't know if you can see it there, the little bells at the top, which is so much fun. And then here's another take from Carol, really just using a pink birdhouse and then a blue bird to really offset it. Lots of great ways, some glitter paper, a little wooden heart, and looks like some Nuvo drops here. So lots of different ways that you can bring out some texture, bring out some dimension. Thank you, Carol, for those beautiful cards. And then Darlene. Darlene has been busy. So not only has she designed her cards for tonight, but she designed 3 more cards for us here in the store. These are using some of these scallop window pieces from Paper Cuts, and she's gone deeper into the neon colors from Hero Arts, the little pink birds, and again, a nice option with the landscape versus the portrait version there. Signature wood grain. Darlene and I love this wood grain technique, and here she's done it with darker pink ink on a lighter background. Her little paste, her little snow drifts here on the birdhouse. And I think it's really interesting that she did not use any birds on this one. It's just the birdhouse. It's the boughs with the bells, and it just really, really, really well, really pink, but really classy in this, that the gems and the rhinestones give it that little sparkle. And then here, no birdhouse, just the one little bird. And again, building the wreath around the opening. Did she make this one a shaker? No, she didn't. There is an acetate piece, so you absolutely could make this a shaker if you wanted to. And you know what? I had to pull my weight too. So I used the robins as a random stamped area in the background. This was using Gina K's, I believe it was Innocent Pink. And you know what? If you're having fun painting with your stencil butter, so much like Darlene just applied the paste directly to her shape, here I took a piece of vellum and just used a paintbrush and painted on the vellum. Once it was dry, I then die cut that out. I used the wood grain for that birdhouse and a little bit of the Hero Arts Sparkle lacquer pen for my snow, and I needed to add some Spellbinders glitter foam as well. So we've got some little trees, the little bird, and once again, that random stamped background. So all of these, if you purchase our breast cancer fundraiser stamp and die bundle, while quantities last, we only have just over, I think we had 54 stamp sets. All proceeds. So this is going for, it's regularly $37.99. This bundle right now, $25. You can't even get a die for $25. And all proceeds are going to go to the Canadian Cancer Society for breast cancer research. As a breast cancer conqueror myself, and I know Darlene's family has been touched by breast cancer, and so many of you, I've heard your stories as well, have been touched by breast cancer in some way, shape, or form. Let's pull together. Let's do what we can to raise some money, give to the Research Foundation, and find a way to beat breast cancer. Every survivor, every conqueror out there has beaten it, but together we can beat it for someone else. So without further ado, I'm going to stop crying. I'm going to sign off for the evening. Thank you, Darlene. Any last words if you want to add?
No, I'm good. That was fun.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so you know what, everyone out there, if you are able to give just a little bit and purchase this stamp set, let's make a big donation and a big impact against breast cancer. Excuse me. Until tomorrow night for What's New, that's me, Sheri, and Darlene over on the other screen, and Matt from behind the keyboard. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us to the end, and have a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.
Good night.